Welcome back to NBAA TV. I'm your host, Allison Godlove. Joining us now in the studio is Steve Csonka with CAAFI and Erik Lindbergh with the Lindbergh Foundation. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's good to see you. How are you feeling about the show so far?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Love the show.
Great.
Good, wonderful. So let's first start with, what does the Lindbergh Foundation do?
The Lindbergh Foundation was started by friends of my grandparents, Charles and Ann Morrow Lindbergh, Neil Armstrong, Jimmy Doolittle, and others at the Explorers Club to carry on their vision of balance between advancing technology and preservation of the environment. And for 45 years, we gave grants to scientists and researchers and people working on that balance. And today we've refocused on aviation, specifically decarbonizing aviation. How do we do that? We're using incentive prizes to break through the barriers that are slowing down the widespread availability and adoption of sustainable aviation fuels for this first project.
So how hard then is decarbonizing aviation?
Well, aviation is one of the hardest industries to decarbonize. We need fuel with high energy and low mass / volume. And gasoline is ideally purposed for that. Huge amounts of energy in a gallon of gas, or Jet A. And so what we're doing as a foundation is creating this thing we call the Forever Flight Alliance and bringing in experts from all around the aviation ecosystem, from fuel producers and suppliers and industry groups, OEMs, engine manufacturers, regulators. We want everybody in the room because there's a lot of great efforts going on to decarbonize aviation, but it's a massive scale. I think, Steve, what is it? We're making 5 million gallons a year today.
A little bit above that. We were 5 million last year.
Okay.
And our industry consumes 100 billion. So 5 million out of 100 billion sets the size of the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Which will require like trillions of dollars in capital expenditure. So we've got a huge mission ahead of us. Using prizes is another tool to be able to do that. For example, my grandfather won the Orteig Prize by flying across the Atlantic, New York to Paris, 1927, to win a small prize. And 7 teams spent $400,000 trying to win that $25,000 prize. So the guy who offered the prize, Orteig, leveraged his money by a factor of 16, and all that research and development went into long distance air travel. So prizes are an incredible tool. And I was fortunate enough to be under the arch in St. Louis in 1996 to announce the X Prize, turned into the Ansari X Prize when we found a prize sponsor. And Burt Rutan and Spaceship One won that in 2004, which jump-started the private spaceflight industry. Not only that, it reinvigorated the incentive prize industry. And so we're using that prize philanthropy, if you will, using prizes to help stimulate research and development and accelerate the process through the barriers we see to producing and making it available in airports, sustainable aviation fuels.
Steve, did you want to add more about?
Not with respect to the prize. I mean, the bottom line is it's going to take a lot of efforts to achieve that challenge, the size of that challenge that we're talking about. And some of them will be non-traditional ways, right? We've got this great foundation of technical development that's been going on. We're starting down the journey of commercialization expansion, but there's still some sticky issues out there that may be very well suited to a prize to help get those bumps off the runway, as it were.
Yeah. So how important is it to be here at NBAA and have these conversations?
It's critical. I think to be, so the Lindbergh Foundation has the aviation sort of network and expertise. We've partnered with the X Prize Foundation, of which I happen to sit on the board of trustees. Our partner at Lindbergh Foundation also sits on the board of directors and runs the prize visioneering process. And to be here at NBAA means we can have experts from all across the industry, because we don't know in depth the details like Steve does, and all the individual manufacturers, fuel producers, et cetera, what their barriers are. So we're here to do a brain trust process which uncovers those barriers so that we can then use the prize process of figuring out how we can accelerate through those not just with prizes, but by putting together unlikely alliances and deals, and then milestone prizes. Maybe we need research from university groups, so it could be a very small prize that's distributed that helps us model aggregation for demand, for example. Unusual problems, but we know that some of the producers can't get the loans for the $100 million SAF plant. I hope I'm getting this right, Steve. This is why we have experts in the room to really help guide us, so that they can get funding. If they know what the demand is, then we can fund these plants that will help us scale up.
And you wanted
Did I get that right?
You guys are going to jump at the same time, but how do you feel about being here and being able to have these conversations face to face?
That's the nature of what we do and what's required. The thing that's very unique about the business aviation community is it's comprised of a set of users who are very interested in acquiring sustainable aviation fuels much sooner than they're actually going to be ready in large quantities. So we've got a lot going into the commercial aviation space, decent amount going into the business aviation space, but we've got some customers in the business aviation side who are less price sensitive than they are in the commercial side. So it creates this unique stimulation of, why can't we make this go faster? What's really holding us back? And so this is a place where a lot of those entities gather, and took the opportunity to pull in about 40 of them to have a good discussion about what those challenges are and how we can address them.
Good.
That's really the first step, is to understand what those barriers are, break them out into groups, prioritize them, pick the low-hanging fruit, help reduce friction in the marketplace, and also look at the long-term technical demands that are maybe 5 to 7 years out, 10 years out, that we could use a large cash incentive prize to help crowdsource from the world how to move through that faster. An example would be a catalyst prize that might be able to crack green hydrogen, for example. So I think the aviation industry is highly motivated to make this change, and we're super smart in this industry and very capable. We've sort of done the impossible time and time again, and we also face a public that's increasingly dissatisfied with people flying in airplanes. We're using up a little bit more carbon, and so how do we make sure that we're driving that dialogue solution-based, science and data-based, so that they don't think there's any smoke and mirrors going on? These are real solutions that are getting us toward that zero carbon goal at 2050 or before. And to do this along the pathway towards the 100th anniversary of my grandfather's flight, when we'll have a lot of eyeballs focused on it, we hope to have some prizes in process, and maybe even one by then. It's hard to tell because there's a little bit of alchemy to this. But that's what we want to use that 100th anniversary for, is to create meaningful positive change.
And you have an event coming up here at NBAA tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow we're hosting the first Brain Trust meeting, which is pulling together all the diverse ecosystem within aviation to really map out those barriers as best as we can and divide into subgroups, working groups, so that we can really start the prize development, discovery and development process.
Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming by and talking with us.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it. Have a great rest of the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.